Hey, welcome back to the Yoga Mat. My name's Amber. We're here with Nadia today for a video all about accessible inversions. So I find that often when I go to a yoga class, the only inversions that are offered is like, now it's time for a headstand, and everybody's just expected to know what to do. So if you're new to yoga, if maybe you've got issues with your neck, or you maybe don't have a lot of upper body or core strength yet, you're working towards that. Maybe if you're in a bigger body, there's lots of reasons that inversions can be kind of frustrating. And so I want to look at some different versions of inversions today that maybe you haven't worked with before. We're going to work with a lot of different props and look at some ways to get that inversion feeling, that having your heart higher than your head, all the same benefits without the difficulty of inversions that we sometimes run into, especially as beginners to yoga. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is something that I know a lot of my students deal with, and I definitely do too, which is, what if you have a larger chest? Being in inversions, if you have a larger chest, it can really feel like you need a snorkel during yoga. If you feel like you can't breathe, you're going to be suffocated. So I want to show you a little trick that works for me and that you might want to try as well. Okay, so Nadia, you can see Nadia is wearing our beautiful yoga strap here. It's really a cute look. Not really, but it is functional and it works really well. So I'm going to have you turn around. I just want to show you where this is placed. So you're going to take the strap behind your back, right up near where your armpits are. So you don't want it way down here at your ribs or your waist or anything. Really high, right level with your armpits. And then go ahead and turn around. You're going to bring it to the front and then cinch the buckle down. And you want it tight enough where it's not going to go anywhere, but loose enough that you could still lift your arms. So can you lift your arms? You can breathe. Good. But it's not going to move around. That's what we want. You don't want it down here low. You want it above the tissue of the chest, and it's going to hold your chest away from your face and create a little more space in your neck, in your throat, and so that you can breathe while you're doing inversions. Okay, so we can take that off now. If you wear it during the practice, if that's something you'd like to do, make sure you tuck that tail away. I definitely have gone upside down plenty of times and hit myself in the face with the tail. Okay. Sorry. We got it really tight here, so I'm going to give you a little assist. All right, there we go. And we'll set the strap to the side. Okay, so the first version that we're going to look at is a seated inversion. So I'm going to have you sit in this chair, and we're going to look at a seated version of downward facing dog using blocks for underneath our hands. So the first thing I'm going to have you do is scoot a little bit forward in the chair so you have a little bit of room to go, and then widen your legs. That's going to give you some room to come forward and let your body come between your legs. And then I'm going to place these blocks out here, and you may need to adjust where they are, but I'm going to have you fold forward and reach your hands to your blocks. Now, once you're here, you can start to make adjustments. So maybe you want to widen your legs a little bit more if you feel like you're getting crunched up in your body. Maybe you want to take your seat a little further back, like walk the hips back in the chair if you feel like you need a bit more stability. And this will allow you to come into kind of a deep restorative version of downward facing dog. So you might need to play with the height of the blocks. So Nadia, you could turn the blocks up. Maybe you even need to make a stack with the blocks, like putting another block underneath. Play with the props at home and see what feels more supportive to you. So go ahead and come up when you feel ready. So that's option one, a downward facing dog or like a deep forward fold in the chair with hands on blocks. That way you have something to resist into. You're not just kind of slumping forward, and you can work on engaging into those blocks. Okay, so for the second option here, we're going to come out of the chair, and we're going to look at some different arrangements for a wide-legged forward fold. So this is a standing wide-legged forward fold. I'm going to have you come into your wide stance, and I'll give you these blocks here. So with your feet parallel, great job, and go ahead and bring your hands to the blocks, and we'll start there. So this is a good place to start, bringing the head lower than the heart. You can play with the height of your blocks. So Nadia's got hands on blocks. Maybe you want to take them lower. You could take your hands to the floor. You could take the blocks on the high height and put your forearms on the blocks. Good. So this is a place where you could really sort of rest into the blocks and make sure that you're not putting all the work into the legs and not just hanging in the spine. So you can continue to resist into the blocks, and then it almost becomes like a prep for something like forearm stands. So you can really work on pressing down into the forearms. Okay, so we're going to look at one more option here, which is to bring your hands to the blocks and bring them a little bit wide. And this is sort of a prep for headstand, or at least to start feeling what it feels like to be in headstand with some pressure on the crown of your head. So I'm going to have you bring the crown of your head down right onto those blocks. And we played with this ahead of time, so we knew exactly how many blocks to have. But Nadia's got her crown of her head pressing into the blocks, and then I'm just going to lower these down so you can place your hands right there. And then Nadia is basically in a tripod headstand. We just don't have as much weight on the head or the neck. So this is a good place to start, letting your body feel what it's like to be in the shape of the pose, to feel what it's like to have that pressure on the crown of the head, because sometimes that can be kind of an intense experience the first time. And also, you're getting all the benefits of the inversion where you've got your head lower than the heart. You're giving your heart a little bit of a break here. Okay, so whenever you're ready, you can look up and then bring your hands to your waist and stand up with a strong back. Good. Take a moment here just to feel stable and ready to go, and then you can walk your feet together. Great job. Okay, so those are two inversions options of the folding forward variety. Now we're going to look at some stuff on our back. So these would be versions of shoulder stand, some more accessible versions there. All right, so I'll take that other block, Nadia. And we're going to bring in a bunch of blankets now. So you can use a big stack of blankets or a really firm bolster or firm couch cushion. What we're mainly looking for here is we don't want, when you put your hips on these, for it to sink down into the floor. We want a firm support. So I'm going to have you turn around and sit on those blankets. Good. And scoot to the edge. So you want to scoot toward like the short side of the mat. Good. And then start to lay back. So you can use your hands to bring yourself back. And then I want you to scoot all the way back. So your hips are up on the blanket, but nothing else. So keep coming. What we want here is for the pelvis, the hips to be supported, but the rest of the back is going to come off, okay? So does it feels like that's happening? So if you're just on your tailbone or if you're way up here on your ribs, you need to make some adjustments until your hips are supported, but the rest of you is coming off the blankets or the bolster. I have bolsters, they're about like 6 inches thick and they're really firm and heavy. That's ideal here, or a big stack of blankets. So you want at least like 5 or 6 inches here. Then you've got a couple options from here. The first is just to turn your palms up, keep your feet on the floor, and do like a version of supported bridge pose here. So this is a milder inversion, but it's still going to get us some of what we're looking for here. The second option is to draw your knees in right up over top of your hips. Good. So this, you could cross your ankles here if that feels good, and you could stay just right here. So I like this type of inversion towards the end of the class. So let's say if you go to a yoga class, everybody else is doing a shoulder stand or a headstand, you're not quite ready for that, or you want something a little more restorative, this is a really good option. You've got your legs up, you're giving your heart a break from pumping blood to your legs, all that good stuff. The third option would be to come into basically a supported shoulder stand. So extend your feet up toward the ceiling. Now, you could stay right here, putting your hands and arms wherever it feels comfortable, or sometimes it's more comfortable to be able to resist into something. And so I'm going to offer Nadia a strap across the bottom of her feet. That way she can keep the legs a little bit more active. I even really like here that you can pull on the strap and ground the head of your femurs, that big leg bone, right into your hip sockets, which is really, really good for your back. And sometimes it can feel really good to sort of reset your spine. So while you're here, feel free to have your arms extended like Nadia does, or even bring your elbows down to the earth and grab lower on the strap. That way you're not as engaged through the upper body. So you can really kind of choose how restorative or how active you want this inversion to be. So I'll take the strap from you. You can go ahead and bring your feet down and come off the blankets. So we're gonna switch positions, switch gears now, and come into a different version of a supported shoulder stand. So for this, I'm gonna remove 2 of the blankets. So you don't want as high of a stack here. And then this takes a little bit of measurement. So what we want is when you come down onto the blankets, your shoulders should be supported on the blankets, but your neck should come off the blankets. So when we press up into a version of shoulder stand, there's not a lot of weight in the neck. All right, so you can come around and take a seat. I find the best way to come into this is to sit somewhere diagonally between the blankets and the chair, and then you're going to swing your legs up onto the chair. And we might need to do some adjustments here. It looks like I need to bring the blankets way back, so lift your hips up, great. Okay, come on down. I'm gonna smooth this out for you. How's that feel? Shoulders on the blanket, neck's coming off the blanket, right? Okay, so we have a chair here, but my preference for this is a wall because I'm here to hold the chair so Nadia doesn't go anywhere. But normally, if you don't have somebody around that can help you, just put your feet on a wall instead, because then you can do the pressing that we're gonna do without the wall going anywhere. So I'm gonna brace the chair so Nadia is really secure. And then you can bring 1 foot to the seat of the chair and press up a little bit. Good. So feel free to bring your arms into those little robot arms we did before. That gives you a little bit of purchase so you can start to wiggle your shoulder blades a little closer together underneath you, and then decide how high you want to lift your hips. So you're fine to stay there. Maybe you want to press a little higher. Maybe you want to lift one leg and see what that feels like, and then set it down, and then maybe lift the other leg. Good. You can even walk your feet all the way to the edge of the chair and press your hips a little bit higher. It's really up to you how much you bring weight into the upper body here. So whenever you're ready, you can come on down and just bring your feet to the floor. I'll move this chair for you. Okay, so with these inversions, I really like this version of shoulder stand because it gives you the control of knowing how much weight you want to bring into your upper body, and you can work on eventually building your core strength to maybe take one leg up in the air where you're more upright, or maybe even eventually bringing both feet up into the air, but you can gradually build the strength to come into a more traditional version of shoulder stand without having to do it all at once, where it's a surprise of how much your body weight is there right on your shoulders. So hopefully this gives you some tools that you can take into your practice and practice some inversions that are more accessible to you. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.